Lately I've been getting really into Chivalry 2. It's one of the better multiplayer games that came out last year, and probably one of the more fun multiplayer games out there right now. I feel like in order to really get better at the game, I have to dive really deep into the details on how the weapons work and how the class system actually works. And my favorite class is obviously the Vanguard. I don't know about you guys. All of the weapons that the Vanguard has and the movement, like with the combination of all of the things that go into the Vanguard's kit, I feel like it's the most fun and probably the best one for new people to try when starting the game. So I wanted to make a video about the Vanguard, going through all of the weapons in the kit, also looking at the stats and the unique traits that the Vanguard brings to Chivalry. I also wanted to say thanks so much for all of the support that I got with my Bannerlord videos. The Bannerlord community is dope. So the first class we're going to look at is the Devastator. They have 130 health, 120 speed, and 100 stamina. They have pretty good weapons. We're going to look at the Battle Axe first. So the Battle Axe is a great weapon for swing spam and overhead spam. Does really good damage against shields and knights. Decent speed, good damage. The range is a little short, but it's not too bad in my opinion. All around, I think it's a pretty good starting weapon. I would recommend using it if you want to do big damage and you don't want to stop swinging. So the War Club is next. I don't really like this weapon very much. I do think it has some utility. I think if you're fighting knights 1v1, this weapon is really nice because it's fast and it does blunt damage, but basic attacks don't cleave, so in team fights you're going to find yourself not being able to deal with crowds unless you heavy attack, which negates the speed that brings the advantage of the weapon in the first place. It's a good weapon for duels if a knight is giving you trouble, but I don't think I would use it in big team fights. The Executioner's Axe is like a longer and slower battle axe. It doesn't do quite as much damage against knights, but the fact that it is a little bit slower can throw people off. Does good special damage. It's an okay weapon. The light and heavy attacks both cleave, which is really nice, but that's also the same for the battle axe. This weapon is really useful if you like the battle axe but you feel like it's a little too short. I feel like this would be a pretty good alternative if you're okay with some really slow drags. Now the greatsword is an interesting weapon. It's like slow when you start attacking, and it's a little bit quicker than other swords on the recovery. So what you can do is kind of bait people with a swing and use your quick recovery time to throw off their timing. It does pretty good damage. It has pretty good reach. It's probably one of the better swords. I kind of like it more than the Messer in this game. I don't know why. I think it might be that faster recovery though. All in all, this is a pretty good weapon once you unlock it. The Maul will absolutely dumpster people in the right hands. It's slow and it doesn't cleave with the light attack, but it does with the heavy. So you can use a good mix-up of light and heavy attacks to confuse the crowd on exactly what's going on. It is very slow though, so you need to be tactical with your swings, especially in crowds. But all in all, this weapon is nearly unstoppable in the right hands. The next class that we're going to go over is the Raider. They are, in my opinion, probably the best in the game. The weapons that they have are basically the best, if not second best weapons, and the fact that you get two of them means the variety of mix-ups and timings that you can have with two different primaries is just really nice. And honestly, the ability to throw a primary weapon and still have one can really catch people off guard sometimes. You would be surprised how many times you can get a Dane axe in someone's back when they're trying to walk away. The Raider is dope. I feel like the Dane axe is a very misunderstood weapon. It's a lot faster than the other axes, and its reach is fairly good. Although it doesn't do as much damage, I feel like the speed that you get outweighs that. The DPS that you can do when you consistently hit groups with the swing. And keep in mind that the light attack does cleave. You will get a lot of damage off in team fights, and you'll whittle down whole groups, outpacing their swings alone. If you can find the right situation, this weapon is pretty strong. The Messer has been a fucking tyrant in every single melee multiplayer game. The slash spam on this thing is too fucking real. It might be slow to start up, but it fucking hits and it does not stop swinging. You gotta be really careful around this weapon, and you also have to be really good at the game to use it well. I wouldn't recommend it for new people, but everyone who's played a Chivalry game or Mordhau knows that this thing is just fucked up. 10 out of 10. In contrast though, I feel, is the two-handed hammer. It's, well, when you're fighting a knight, it feels like a budget maul. A little less damage for more reach and speed. But when you're fighting in team fights, it doesn't cleave with basic attacks. It doesn't really do very much damage against anyone but a knight. So you're going to be stuck relying on heavy attacks to get through the groups, and it's not going to feel very good. I feel like it can be a good weapon to have on your back though. When you see a knight who keeps challenging you, you can switch to it to duel him. But in team fights, the two-handed hammer is probably going to be a no for me, dog. The glaive is basically a shitty spear that you swing instead of stab with. Damage is really bad. It doesn't really matter that it's really fast and that you can outpace people with your swings, because you're going to be hitting them 4 or 5 times. And even with the fact that everything cleaves, it doesn't really matter because the damage that you're putting out isn't good. Now, if you're trying to farm XP and you want to run around and swipe every single person, this might be useful, but I think you'd be better off using a weapon that sacrifices a little speed or a little reach for significantly more damage. In every situation, this weapon is poop. The Ambusher is kind of like the lightweight subclass of the Vanguard. The bonus damage from behind and with projectile headshots is really good though. I would usually recommend getting rid of one of the smaller weapons that they give you and pick up something bigger and focus on hitting people in the back and catching people off guard. It will do pretty good, but I don't really like this subclass just because the weapons are kind of bad. The ability to throw knives is cool, but it's not that cool. The dagger is basically the Dark Souls of Chivalry 2. It is a weapon that only makes the game harder. There really isn't any other reason to use it unless you're looking for a good challenge. The speed that it gives doesn't really help with the pitiful damage and range. Fuck you. The short sword is a really good example of a weapon that I would throw at someone so that I could pick up a heavier weapon. Only going to make the game more difficult. It might catch someone off guard to switch to it, but if you want to do big damage, you're just going to need something bigger and longer. It's fast, but speed isn't really what's important in this, especially when everyone can just hold down block. Like, it's not like Mordhau where you have to have good timing, so it kind of loses a lot of utility in that sense. The hatchet is probably my preferred weapon to hang on to with the Ambusher class. When you go and pick up a heavy weapon and you have this one as your secondary, it's a little bit faster and it does a little more damage than people expect, so it can cut them off guard if you get a weapon knocked out of your hands or you just want to change up your timing. And finally, the last weapon is the cudgel. It is very useful for bonking knights over the top of their head, especially when you're standing behind them. It's really good for beating down people's stamina bar. It's not really useful as a primary weapon. It might be a good alternative to the hatchet if you don't really like that. I would say it's not bad though. It's really good for knights. That's about it. So those are my thoughts on the Vanguard. I do strongly feel like it's the best one in the game. I think the Knight is second, but I haven't unlocked all the weapons for it yet. Probably going to do that and then make a video for the Knight's weapons. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. I really appreciate it if you watched the video and liked it. Have a good day. Stay safe out there. Stay vaxxed. Trans rights. Stay gay.